Career 125cc World Championship. Born in Cervera, Catalonia, Spain, Marquez made his championship debut on April 13, 2008 at the 125cc 2008 Portuguese Grand Prix at the age of 15 years and 56 days. 10. He is the youngest Spanish rider to take a pole position or a podium in a motorcycle racing world championship. Marquez at the 2010 Dutch TT. Marquez achieved his first podium on June 22, 2008 at the British Grand Prix. For 2009, as a factory KTM rider, at the French Grand Prix achieved his first pole position at the age of 16 years and 89 days. He also took pole for the 2010 Spanish Grand Prix, but the exhaust pipe fell off on the opening lap and went under the rear wheel, causing Marquez to crash and injure his shoulder. His first win was on June 6, 2010 at Mugello. Further victories at Silverstone, Assen and Catalonia in the next 3 races made Marquez the youngest rider to win 4 successive races. 11. His 5th win in succession at the Sachsenring was Derby's 100th victory in Grand Prix racing, and Marquez became the first rider since Valentino Rossi in 1997 to win 5 successive races in 125cc racing. 12. He was less successful in the following races, dropping to 3rd in the standings at 1 point behind Nicolas Terol and Paul Espargaro after being involved in an accident with Randy Grummenaker at the first corner at the Aragon Grand Prix. 13. 4 successive wins from MotoGP onwards had moved Marquez into a 17-point lead over Terol with only 1 round to go. At Estoril, the race was red flagged due to rain, with Marquez running second to Terol. When returning to the grid for the second race, Marquez fell on the siding lap and had to return to the pits. With repairs, Marquez started at the back of the field, having not made it out of the pit lane before it closed 5 minutes prior to the start. Despite this, Marquez recovered to win the race and thus extend his lead before the Valencia finale. His 10th victory of the season moved him to within 1 of tying the record set by Rossi in 1997. 14. He would fall short of tying it as he was 4th at the final race in Valencia to become the 2nd youngest world champion after Loris Capirossi. 2-3. Moto2 World Championship. Marquez at the 2011 Czech Republic Grand Prix. Marquez moved into the Moto2 class for 2011, the first of an expected 2-year deal. 15, as the sole rider of the new Team Munlaw competition, run by his manager Emilio Alzamora. He finished 21st in Portugal, before taking his first victory in the class at the French Grand Prix. 16, at his home race in Catalonia, Marquez finished second behind championship leader Stefan Bradl, before another fall at the Silverstone, having started from his first Moto2 pole position. With Bradl taking his 4th victory in the first 6 races, Marquez trailed him by 82 points at the end of the weekend. 17. Marquez made a mid-season surge up the championship standings, winning 6 of the next 7 races to move within 6 points of Bradl in the championship standings. 18. In the Japanese Grand Prix, Marquez took his 7th pole position of the season but finished second to Andrea Iannone. 19, but that finish combined with a 4th place for Bradl, allowed Marquez to take the championship lead by a point. 20, at the Australian Grand Prix, Marquez was involved in an incident with Rathapart Wiley Irat during free practice. Marquez crashed into the back of Wiley Irat after the session had been concluded, and for riding in an irresponsible manner, was given a 1-minute time penalty onto his qualifying time. 21-22, the penalty ensured Marquez would start the race from last on the grid, but he made his way through the field and eventually finished the race in 3rd place. Prior to the Malaysian Grand Prix, Marquez confirmed that he would remain in Moto2 for the 2012 season. 23, after rumors of a move into the MotoGP class. Marquez's race weekend was hampered in the opening minutes of the first free practice session, as he crashed on a damp patch of asphalt. 24, after sitting out 2 further practice sessions, Marquez completed 2 laps in the qualifying session, but his times were only good enough for 36th on the grid. He did not start the race, as he failed a medical examination prior to the warm-up on race morning. 25. Marquez attended the final race of the season in Valencia, in the hope of being fit to compete, but withdrew due to his continued vision problems, giving Bradle the title. 26. In 2012, Marquez won the Moto2 championship title after a season-long battle with fellow Spanish rider Pol Espargaro. A third-place finish for Marquez at the Australian Grand Prix, despite a win for Espargaro 27, was enough to give him his second world title before moving into the premier class for the 2013 season. 28. He took his last victory in the class at the Valencian Grand Prix, the last event of the season, despite starting from 33rd on the grid. This performance, which involved overtaking 20 bikes on the first lap alone, became the biggest comeback in the sport's history. 29. He finished the season with 9 race wins, setting a record for the class that still stands. Marquez's result was enough to give Suter the constructors' title for the class. MotoGP. On July 12, 2012, it was announced that Marquez had signed a 2-year contract with the Repsol Honda team in MotoGP, replacing the retiring Casey Stoner and joining teammate Dani Pedrosa, from 2013 onwards. 30-31. Marquez tested the Honda RC213V for the first time in Valencia after the end of the 2012 championship, slapping just over a second slower than his teammate and compatriot Dani Pedrosa, who topped the timesheets. 32. Marquez was again impressive during the first official MotoGP testing at Sepang, where he finished the first 2 days of testing at 3rd position, just behind Pedrosa and Jorge Lorenzo and ahead of Valentino Rossi in 4th before swapping places with Rossi on the final day. 33. Marquez also did a race simulation during the closing stages of the session, and his timings were consistent and phenomenal for a rookie. Marquez continued his impressive form in the private test of Honda at Austin, where he topped the timesheets all 3 days. 2013. Marquez started the 2013 season with a podium finish in Qatar. He qualified 6th and eventually finished 3rd behind Jorge Lorenzo and Valentino Rossi. 34. At the second round of the championship at the new Circuit of the Americas in Texas, Marquez beat his teammate Dani Pedrosa and became the first winner at the new track. In doing this, Marquez became the youngest ever MotoGP race winner at 20 years, 63 days, beating Freddie Spencer's 30-year-old record. 35. Marquez slipped during the 3rd free practice session without getting injured or damaging his bike and eventually qualified 3rd fastest at Jerez. Marquez finished the race in 2nd position behind teammate Dani Pedrosa. 36. At Le Mans, Marquez took the 2nd pole of his short MotoGP career, 0.03 seconds ahead of Lorenzo. Marquez suffered a bad start to the race and spent many laps in the lower half of the top 10. However, by mid-race he began to find his rhythm and progressed forward. Marquez overtook Andrea Dovizioso with only 2 laps to go in the race to claim his 4th podium finish in as many races, tying Max Biaggi's record from 1998. 37. Marquez endured a tough weekend at Mugello. After crashing his Repsol Honda on Friday morning, Marquez crashed again on Friday afternoon. He had a 3rd crash on Saturday morning practice but recovered to qualify on the 2nd row for the race. He suffered his 4th crash of the weekend with only 3 laps to go in the race, his first non-finish since joining the premier class. 38. At Catalonia, Marquez finished the race in 3rd place. 39. At Assen, Marquez suffered a huge high side in morning practice, causing small fractures in the little finger of his right hand and also his left big toe. He finished the race in 3rd place. 40. At Sechsenring, following injuries to main rivals Pedrosa and Lorenzo, Marquez took his 3rd MotoGP pole position. After an average start, he worked his way to the front to lead by the end of lap 5 and was never again headed despite a strong late race charge from Cal Crutchlow to win by 1.5 seconds. 41. At Laguna Seca, Marquez replicated the overtake that Rossi made on Casey Stoner at the same corner in 2008 to pass Rossi. He won his third race of the year to extend his championship lead to 16 points over Dani Pedrosa. 42. At Indianapolis, Marquez grabbed pole position by 0.5 seconds from Jorge Lorenzo. In the race, Marquez made an average getaway and dropped behind Lorenzo and Pedrosa. On lap 12, Marquez passed Lorenzo for the lead. Lorenzo and Pedrosa were able to keep pace with Marquez for a few laps, but in the final few the gap opened and Marquez took his fourth win of the year by just over 3 seconds. 43. At Brno, the race saw an intense battle between Marquez and Lorenzo. Lorenzo made a great start off the line and led the race at the first corner. The pair proceeded to swap places on various occasions, with the final pass coming at turn 3 with just under 4 laps to go. Marquez became the first rider to win 4 consecutive races since Valentino Rossi in 2008. 44. Marquez and Valentino Rossi at the 2013 British Grand Prix. At Silverstone, during Sunday morning warm-up, Marquez crashed his bike and dislocated his shoulder. The race was a fight between Marquez and Lorenzo in the early laps as they pulled away from the field. In the final laps, the two front-runners traded places and pained. Marquez passed Lorenzo with only a few corners remaining but was repassed and Marquez finished second. 45. At Misano, Marquez was atop the standings once again by over half a second over Lorenzo to claim pole position. Marquez finished the race in second place behind Lorenzo. 46. At Aragon, Marquez started from pole for the 7th time in 2013. Again, Marquez lost the lead to Lorenzo in the first corner. Marquez found himself 2 seconds behind Lorenzo but soon caught up with Lorenzo and eventually crossed the line over 1 second ahead of him to record his 6th victory of the season. With 4 races left, Marquez had 278 points, 39 ahead of second-place Lorenzo. 47. At Sepang, Marquez took his 4th consecutive pole position. In the race, Marquez made another poor start and was fighting with Rossi for 3rd and 4th places in the first laps of the race. Marquez finished the race in 2nd place. 48. At Phillip Island in Australia, Marquez was disqualified from the race, reducing his championship lead over Lorenzo, who won, from 43 points to 18 with 2 rounds to go. 49. At Motegi, Marquez recovered from a heavy fall on race day morning to finish second behind Lorenzo. 50. The result trimmed his championship lead to 13 points, meaning a 4th-place finish at Valencia would be sufficient to crown him champion even if Lorenzo won. Marquez started the race on pole, but had a bad start and fell to 3rd. Marquez then let Dani Pedrosa do most of the early attacking on Jorge Lorenzo. Lorenzo then pushed on after a scare to win the race. Pedrosa and Marquez came 2nd and 3rd respectively, which was enough for Marquez to become champion, the youngest in series history. 51. 2014. The 2014